So there we are. Hello, welcome. Would you mind introducing yourself properly and telling us a bit about your program of study at Cranfield?
Hi, good afternoon. Yeah, I'm Charan Sekhon. I studied at Cranfield about 25 years ago. Time flies. I did MSc Energy Conservation and Environment.
And I know that your commitment and your allegiance to Cranfield continues. So I want to start with that because I understand you've been doing some charity work around COVID-19 and Cranfield students. So please just tell us something about what you've been doing in the last few months for our Cranfield community.
Yeah, I think the continuation of my association with Cranfield goes back 25 years. After leaving Cranfield, I was still active at used to be the Asian Student Society. We didn't have enough Indians at that time, but a few years later, we had a very strong Indian society was set up. But I continued my involvement through Asian Society. Then it became Indian Society, where we hold a lot of cultural events, discussion forums, and so on. So now the COVID-19 situation started in March. So sudden lockdown in the UK, sudden lockdown in many other countries in India, and the students, especially the international students, they face a lot of challenges because they cannot travel back. A lot of students finished their courses. They were just about to board for flights, and there's sudden lockdown. So many of them actually vacated the accommodation. On the other hand, they were fresh intake. New students came in, and suddenly they found themselves in this lockdown situation, which never happened before. So we took a decision from our organization, which I chair, is called SEVA Trust, Social Education Voluntary Association. So SEVA Trust UK, the management took a decision that we need to start helping these international students, in addition to the work we were doing with the local communities. So this is how my kind of connection with the Cranfield reignited, if I can use this word, in a positive way, that they wanted to, play a positive part to make a real difference for these students. So this is how I got reconnected, not only with Cranfield University, a number of other universities in our area and east of England as a whole.
That's a beautiful introduction to SEVA, but I feel we need to do it justice. This is the charity that you founded and that you are now the chairman of. So please tell us about the work that you do outside of the COVID-19 crisis, because you have three mission statements that I've read on the SEVA charity website, and I'm sure that our audience would just love to hear about that work and what you're doing to bring together mental health and education and the environment, which seems to me such a lovely intersection of three really important parts of life.
Yeah, if I may take a step back before answering your question, I come from a very humble background with a very limited access to educational facilities, educational establishment, and I have seen the hardship, the challenges in those environments, and then I was so fortunate to be able to come to Cranfield to study there, which made a massive difference in terms of my connection with the wider world, my connections with wider organizations, and I always wanted to give something back to the communities, because I got significant amount of help in my career, especially when I came to Cranfield. A lot of people helped me. Even here in Cranfield, in addition to the help I got from India. So I wanted to give something back. And this is the kind of driving force behind setting up this organization. It was set up about 6 years ago, we started with an informal group of number of professionals, including 3 Cranfield graduates. We got together, and we decided to do something formally. So this is how we set up the trust. We register charity in UK, in England and Wales, and also we register as a public charitable trust in India. And we started on 3 key areas you already mentioned: environment, education, and health. Education was one of our prime target because we want to give opportunity for a lot more youngsters in the same situation I was many years ago. So they can progress in their life. They can have a good education. So that is helping youngsters, students from low income, underprivileged background in India. That is one part of our work, and we also do a lot of work here in Bedfordshire, engaging with youngsters and also promoting kind of public sector jobs. There is a challenging situation at the moment that public sector is not able to attract staff members or the workforce from diverse background. So, and also trying to engage with the youth groups to maybe train them, to give them tools they need to be young leaders. Environment, we do a lot of work in terms of environment awareness campaigns involving the BAME, Black, Asian, Minority, Ethnic community with environmental awareness campaigns, and health, of course, through free health awareness classes, free yoga classes, which we have been running here for the last, nearly 5 years in Bedford.
So Charan, I know that we've touched on 3 aspects of your work and life, but there's a 4th, so let's get that out as well. You've mentioned that you studied environmental studies at Cranfield, and that now is, believe it or not, I believe you've got a full-time job on top of everything else that you've just outlined. So tell us about your day job.
Yeah, when I decided to pick environmental field, I always wanted to make some real difference. The MSc at Cranfield University actually helped me to get into this career. As I said, the reason I studied environment was I want to make some real difference. I want to see sustainability. I want to play my part in protecting environment, for present and future generations. Then I thought the only way to do that is to work in an organization where you can actually make some practical difference. I am not a person who will sit in the office all day, do the research work. I want to do something, that I can make a real difference. So that's the reason I joined the Environment Agency. It's a regulatory body. Where you are working with a wide range of customers, public sector, water companies, industrial processes, and you are regulating them, you are advising them, and your actions are directly impacting on the decision-making process that you are able to help improve and protect the environment. So that was the main reason I decided to join the Environment Agency. So I am at present a senior environment officer, and it's a technical role. I support my team on a wide range of technical aspects. I have done a lot of work on agriculture regulations. I also done work on regulating the power sector, mainly AD plants, anaerobic digestion plants on farms, and also do quite a lot of enforcement work in terms of preventing, reducing environmental crime. So that's my day job.
Yeah, wow. So I think the only way we're going to get through this podcast in a way that is both comprehensive but also brief is I'm going to encourage you to answer my questions looking across all 4 domains. So if we could consider all the domains that you work in, the UK Environment Agency, SEVA, the work you're doing at Cranfield with students in the community there, and you know, just absolutely everything that you're doing. Oh, and I forgot to mention, you're also a counselor. You work, again, in your spare time, serving your community as a counselor. Is that right? I forgot to mention that. I've just glanced at my notes and see that
No,
for 20
that's
years
good.
you've been a counselor.
Yes, nearly 2002 onwards as elected councillor. I think the reason for that is when a community in Bedford trying to set up a place of worship, they face a lot of obstacles, you know, huge challenges. And at that time, I realized there was no elected reps from BAME communities. So if you want to bring about positive changes, I believe that you should not be just part of a group who criticizing system. You know, you need to be upfront and kind of challenge those scenarios. The only way to do that is to be part of that system. This is how I decided that I need to get into local politics. I need to be rep at a local council, and trying to help you know, those issues and challenges I mentioned. This is how I got involved with the council job, and yes, I carried on since then.
Well, what a wonderfully rich and diverse and active portfolio you currently run. Let's look across all of that and consider some of the things that you have seen and experienced as a leader, some of the things that you'd like to reflect on as a leader, some of the things that you'd like to pass on to the listeners of this podcast about leadership. So my first question is, do you have a definition of leadership? How do you actually think about leadership?
I think when I think about leadership, I think about three key things. The first thing I'll start with, I'll say passion. If you are not passionate, you are not going to be effective leader, in my view. If you are passionate, you can inspire a lot of other people. That's exactly what you need in any organization. Yeah, you want to lead from the front, and you need to be passionate. The second thing I'll say is humility and empathy. I think a good leader never shy away from admitting things can go wrong. There were wrong decisions made, and never blame others. You know, always be humble. You take criticism in a positive way for further improving yourself. And we must remember, you know, we all are human beings. You know, health and safety, well-being, our staff welfare, and their families always come first. So if we, you know, need to build a stronger organization, a leader need to be, showing empathy and building a really positive relationship with the staff members, and especially their well-being and staff welfare side. And the final thing I'll say is of course, clarity and the decisiveness. You know, you need to be very clear about your decision-making process, the actions you take, and your ability to take decisions. So that's my kind of broader definition for the leader.
So let's just drill down on that a bit more, because it sounds to me very much like you have a model in your head, which is what might be characterized as a person-centered model of leadership, which is taking account of the whole human that is in front of you, the whole human or the whole set of humans that you need to work with and interact with. I wonder how you think about bringing out the best in those people that you're working with.
I think, again, it depends the situations, but in a modern world now, it's a very diverse environment where you work with a wide range of people coming from different backgrounds, different cultures. So in my view, any leader need to have a basic understanding of diversity, basic understanding of different culture needs, and then work with those people accordingly. I think to any organization, people are their strength, the staff are their strength. Without the frontline workers, without the frontline staff, no one will exist. You take the real doers out of any organization. I'm thinking about the charity, we set up 5 years ago. If I take out my volunteers, the frontline, we won't exist. So we always need to be mindful about that. We need to reward them. We need to treat them with respect. And people will go out of way to help out, to make sure that your organization, sustains and make a huge progress in future. So that is my take on that.
I think that's really interesting. I'd like to ask you about issues of leadership when working with volunteers, because I think it really shapes how you think about that relating or that interrelating between you and others. When you know that people have discretion, they have a choice. It's their choice to turn up. It's their choice to participate. It's their choice to contribute. I wonder if you have any reflections or any particular lessons you've learned as you've been working with a collection of volunteers.
Absolutely. I have been part of this organization for 6 years, and we deal with more than kind of 80 people here in the UK and in India, and they all come from different backgrounds, different cultures. I think one thing I have kind of learned is, there's a huge difference the way the leadership in charity and corporate world operates. In corporate world, I think profitability driven, profitability comes first in so many aspects. If your company is not making profit, obviously, then you have to make, kind of different decisions. But here, there is a sense of selfless service. So these volunteers, most of them, obviously, they are not coming here for paid jobs. They come here, remember I mentioned the first word, passion, with the leadership. So due to their passion, that's why they join the organization. They want to make a difference. And if, our motto for the organization is serving together for a better future. So we are working together for a better future, working together to inspire, support, and lift others. So these are the mottos we work towards. So, in order to make sure that we reach out the maximum number of people, maximum number of beneficiaries, we need to work together. We need to be as a one family. Of course that I'm leading the organization, but I am an integral part of that family, and we value each other. I think that's something helps us, all of us, in a positive way.
I very much like the phrase that you've used, we lift each other, and I read it on your website, so I'm really glad that you've repeated it. It seems to me that that is an idea that can work in corporations, even alongside the profit motive. But it seems to me that one of the things that leaders very often forget is that even when people are on the payroll and occupying a specific role, one of the things we can do as a leader is help lift them up, raise them up, or help them to see how what they are doing raises themselves up as well as raising others up. Have you any experience of that in the work that you've done outside of the volunteers sector?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key thing is we need to understand their strengths. All of us have strengths and weaknesses. So if we can understand and acknowledge these strengths, that can help in many ways. And of course, there are other areas where we can support them to make improvement for future. So I think the first thing is acknowledgement of their strengths. If you want the productivity to increase, then you put those people in charge of the areas where their strength lies. And second thing, of course, is the support network as well. You also need to make sure that you continue developing people. It's not about just profitability, just about productivity. You need regular development program in place. I mean, talking about the work we do, we got really structured support network in place with the charity. The work I do outside charity at the Environment Agency, again, we got really structured training and development program in place, and also giving opportunity for individuals to work in their field where they are more comfortable, and also their strength lies. I mean, I was allowed to work in a totally different area, is equality, diversity, and inclusion, because of my passion on equality. And I'm really grateful to Environment Agency that they allowed me to lead this project for the last 3 years. I passionately believe in equality, passionately believe in social justice, and I want to make a positive change for my organization to bring diverse workforce to the Environment Agency, so that we are representing the communities we serve. So it's a combination of all the three things I outlined.
That's a beautiful sweet spot, isn't it? When an organization says, I believe that you were in a role that was a technical role before they asked you to lead that project on diversity and inclusiveness. But it seems to me a beautiful sweet spot where you can, as an organization, make space, make room for somebody's passion, but also encourage them to slightly come out of their comfort zone, so that the opportunity is both a wonderful thing, but also challenging, also stretching, also developing, also part of that continuing growth. So it just sounds to me like you've had a wonderful experience there. Can we move to reflect on the transcultural nature of the leadership that you've been involved in? Because I've interviewed quite a few leaders in the course of this podcast, and it occurred to me when I was chatting with you earlier today that I haven't delved very much into what difference is there in leading in one environment versus leading in another environment. So how do you flex or change your leadership style when you move across continents, when you move from India to the UK and back again, for example?
I think obviously I come from a Sikh background, and our first Guru Nanak gave us 3 basic principles. That is, honest living, work hard first. Second one is share your wealth with others, always help others. And third one is always remember the Creator. I think I have kept these 3 teachings with me all the time. Honest working, sincerity that people appreciate, and also understanding of different cultures, different background. That is really important for any leader. Just to share a simple example, I mean, here in the UK, we all know the significance of Christmas and Easter. So we don't expect anyone to work on Easter or on Christmas Day, for example. In the same way, we got a lot of people from different background. They got significance of Eid, significance of festival of light, Diwali, Vaisakhi, Chinese New Year, for example. Not everyone celebrate New Year on 31st December. There are other New Year. So these are the key elements you need to understand when you work with different cultures, people from different backgrounds, to have this understanding about their cultures, about the diversity. That helps you to connect with people. People really appreciate that you are appreciating their culture, their background. And in my view, it helps, your organization to become stronger and, of course, more inclusive. So yeah, it's a challenging situation sometimes, doing a lot of work here in UK, and suddenly I end up going to India, working in North India. I think the challenges there is sometimes a bit of red tape. You need to jump through quite a lot of hoops in order to get a simple thing done. But on the other hand, the positive thing is you get additional help. There's a lot of volunteers always willing to support you.
That's really lovely. I wonder if you find that the structural inhibitors that that exist in large organizations are becoming flexible enough to take account of that individuality that you're referring to. So, you know, have we got organizations that are able to recognize that Chinese New Year is a different time of the year to the typical Christian calendar, that Eid and Diwali are also important celebrations in the life of the community and might need some flexibility around them? Is your experience that that is available?
It is changing, definitely it's changing. I'll give you two examples. You know, you running an organization and where you are serving large customer base and you got a lot of customers, for example, you know, just coming from say South Asian background. It is in your interest to have your local rep or your local contact coming from that community, because that person is going to connect your clients, your customer in a much better way than maybe someone who is not aware. I'm not saying that there is a issue of skills here. I'm just saying that the basic understanding can make a huge difference. So it is in your interest to be more diverse, to be more inclusive in order to increase your profitability, in order to make your organization even stronger. I mean, I was asked to lead on a project many years ago with scrap metal industry, you know, dealing with scrap metal, scrap yards and some of those sites. So we had a few sites where there's a huge issue of communication barrier. You know, my organization was serving notices, enforcement cases against a couple of companies, but they were not able to fully understand, you know, what actually we are asking them to do. So the communication language was a big barrier. So I got involved. I liaised with the companies, you know, met with the MD, talked to his own language, and see, he was so happy that someone is talking his own language. Yeah. You know, within a week, he came up with a list of things that this is how I'm going to solve these issues. Yeah. And we managed to get that site back to compliance. So it's just a win-win situation, both for the customers and for your organization.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you a question out of left field. So this might be slightly unexpected, but it comes from my reading of your bio, which I found online. I noticed that in SEVA, you have, as part of your focus on exercise, you offer yoga classes, and I think you are a yoga practitioner yourself. I wonder how the mindset of yoga might be influencing some of the things in your leadership conceptualization.
It definitely helps in many ways. I mean, I have been a fully trained yoga teacher for over 15 years, but I never made yoga as a profession. I know I could have set up another company, a yoga company.
Fifth string to your bow, yes.
Yeah, but I always, you know, took that as a community service, run free classes. And not only me, there are a lot of other people in our organization. We are linked to a national charity called Patanjali Yoga Trust, and we do a lot of community work. So yes, yoga helps a lot. You know, every day in the morning you spend half an hour. It prepares you for a very challenging day. And also it helps you to deal with stress. In my personal view, I had, you know, a lot of situations where I'm dealing with, you know, my full-time job, family commitments. Then I had the responsibility for the charity. Not only here, you got projects going overseas, my council job and community commitments. In those kind of scenarios, you know, it can be really stressful time. So yoga helps a lot. I have actually introduced free classes at my work in the past. You know, we have a health and well-being kind of sessions, health and well-being awareness days, and it was taken really positively. So I think if I may appeal to this platform, I think all the big companies should consider to have this option for their workforce. I know a lot of companies are offering that in lunchtime session. It can help in many ways, not only health and well-being, but also to increase their profitability, in my view.
So I am a mindfulness teacher, and I would have almost exactly the same answer. But for those people who are listening to this podcast who've never participated in a yoga class or done any mindfulness practice, I wonder if you could say just a bit more about how yoga and how the mindset of a yogi helps you deal with stress, how helps you to change your mindset or have a particular mindset as you go into your day.
I think just one thing I want to touch on before I answer your question. When you do either mindfulness or meditation or yoga, you are basically practicing silence. You start kind of learning about yourself in a better way. You do gentle breathing. You are getting excess oxygen going into the body, which we never do during the daytime, because our human body, of course, is designed to have, if I'm right, I think it's probably 500 ml tidal volume to 1000 tidal volume in each breathing cycle, which never happens because we got cough, cold, living in heated houses and so on. So in the morning, you're getting a lot of fresh oxygen into your body, a lot of fresh air, and you refresh, you recharge completely. And also it helps you to kind of stabilize, as I mentioned, there are a lot of situations when, you may be a bit of angry, anxiety, stress, because your calmness, because your daily practice, it helps you to stay calm and deal with in a composed way. I think that is a really, really positive thing about yoga and mindfulness or any other form of meditation people are involved with.
So I think that what I'm hearing you say, as well as the physiological benefits of something such as yoga or mindfulness, I think what I'd like to overlay on your answer, and just push back if you don't think I'm representing your view properly. But I think that what I learn from listening to you is that you are really prepared to meet people where they are. So many leaders expect people to come to their perspective, their way of thinking, their modality, if you like. And what I see in you and what I hear from you is that you're very much of the collaborative view. You are prepared to meet people just as they are, just where they are. How does that resonate with you?
No, that's absolutely, you summed up really nicely. I think two things on that. First is, what is your starting point? If you meet those people where they are, and then you have plenty of time to sell your ideas, to convince them about what you want to achieve and take them on board. You don't want to create conflict to start with. You need to understand their circumstances, their situations, and then if you are passionate about your objectives, if you are really want to make a change, want to achieve that, then you will definitely convince them to come on board. So it's all about, as I mentioned, in my initial answer, it's about empathy, it's about humility. All these things counts a lot. So the people become your strength. They are not working against you; they are working with you.
Yeah, really lovely. Thank you. As you heard, my little notification did go off, which is a bit unexpected. Time has really flown by. I want to make sure I ask you my most favorite question, and also leave you time to tell me anything that I haven't asked about. So my most favorite question is, what do you wish you'd known about leadership when you were younger? So if you were coaching your younger self, what would you remind yourself of?
I mentioned earlier, my struggle and coming from humble background. I think it was a fear of failure. Always had a huge fear in my mind of failure. Maybe kind of coming from a background where, there was no room for failure. that created a big fear in my mind. The second thing I always had, was the maybe fear of making wrong decisions, lack of confidence, and my inability to embrace fear. I think that was a big thing for me. And coming from those kind of scenarios where, not much exposure to start my career, that I can think about these things in a logical way, or I can think about, a long-term career plan. I never had that opportunity. As the time goes by, and as I said, I came to Cranfield, I think that changed everything for me. It opens up the door for opportunities. It opens up, kind of my kind of dream for a defined career, as well as doing the community service. Because the three things I mentioned, I want, always stay with me. I want to help the society. If I may say so, the objective of life is not just be a very successful person, lots of money, big houses, your kids go to private school. Of course, that is a good thing. You achieve that, but that should not be the sole objective of your kind of life here. The sole objective is, in addition to that, what are you going to do with the society? What are you going to do for the society? That is always really important. So my message through your platform to all the listeners is, no matter, which part of the world you live, what job you do, of course, please pursue your career, pursue your dreams. Whatever you do, but always remember that we have really important, duty for others, because we have gone through that kind of hardship, and we must remember that. And we always try to give something back to the communities.
Lovely, really lovely. I really applaud your honesty about fear of failure. And I feel that it may be helpful to make the connection once more to your yoga practice, where I have very little experience of yoga, but the experience I do have of it is that almost as you participate in yoga, you are unwrapping and revealing to yourself your innate capacity to deal with whatever is here. And fear is just a human construct in a way. It's just an artifact of our mind. And so I just, I wanted to draw that loop, and again, invite you to challenge me if I've incorrectly summarized that.
No, that's absolutely right. Yoga is not just a form of physical exercise. It is our mind. And even with yoga, there are a lot of ways you can complete your physical exercise, what you do in a gym. There are different postures, differences. So it's about, making your mind stronger. It's about focus. It's about understanding yourself. And when I do yoga in the morning, I sometimes start visualizing my day. That these are the things I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do. That is a connectivity you have with the creator, or whoever you want to say. Some people call it God, some people call it Ram, some people call it Vaheguru. So it helps in many ways. But I think the last thing I want to add on this one is, in a normal scenario where people rely on, like, for example, external exercises, gyms and stuff. With this one, you don't require anyone. You just require yourself. No matter it's raining outside with heavy snow, and you cannot miss it. You cannot find any excuse for not doing that. And I think sometimes it can be really difficult to explain what the connectivity and the output you get from there. I think you can only realize once you start doing yourself.
Lovely, thank you. So what would you like to tell our listeners that I haven't elicited from you? Maybe I haven't had the right question, or maybe there's something that has come up that we've skipped over. So, while we've got some open space to ask you, what else you'd like to reflect on in terms of leadership and communicating to our audience who are listening.
No, I guess you have covered all aspects. I think the one thing I would just like to elaborate on is the work we have done during COVID-19.
Yeah.
That is really challenging time for everyone, especially international students, I think, have suffered a lot. And at the beginning, I think many international students, they were neglected by the system. But I'm really pleased that our organization able to work with all the universities, and I must thank Cranfield University, the students' experience team, in the way they have communicated with us and number of other charities to make sure all the international students, living at campus, they are looked after well. And really rewarding for me or for the whole organization that we were able to make a small difference for those students. So, we successfully looked after more than kind of 650 families and students for the last 5 months in terms of, meeting their needs for the foods and a lot of other help with accommodation issues and so on. As I said earlier, I think it's really important for all of us to remember that all of us have faced challenges in life and all of us will face challenges in life. The key thing is that we need to remember in those challenges, who are the people who helped you? And you always give something back. I'm really pleased to say that a number of students from your university now are our volunteers. They are managing, coordinating the food hub. That is the kind of big reward for us that, we help these students and they came back saying that, no, we want to help you. So I'm really, really pleased with that. And I very much hope that we can continue this good work, and also we continue to attract more volunteers to carry on, this work for the kind of benefit and welfare for the communities as a whole.
Well, let's do the modern thing and sign off this podcast with reference to your charity, which is the SEVA Trust. That's S for sugar, E for echo, V for Victor, and A for Alpha, SEVA Trust. And the website is?
www.sevatrustuk.org. So SEVA Trust UK, all one word. And we are also on social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So anyone willing to find out more or want to, get involved, get in touch with our admin team, and we will follow it up. We'll share more details.
Brilliant, thank you. And I will make sure that we put references and links to all of that in the show notes for this podcast. So anybody listening who hasn't written any of that down, we'll make sure it's all on the show notes. So Charan, thank you very much. It's been a great pleasure talking to you. I'm hoping that by finishing a few minutes early, you can get to your next meeting on time.
No, that's great. Thanks so much. Thank you. I really, I'm really pleased to be here, and really nice to talk to you. Thank you. It
was a great pleasure. I learned so much from you, and as somebody who needs their sleep, I would hate to think you're robbing yourself. Right, I'm just going to stop the recording.